whether the team is giving us the highest of highs or the bluest of blues. We'll cover it all here on Commanders Nightly News. I, of course, am your host, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. Let's get to tonight's lead story. So Ronald Rivera stepped to the podium again for the third consecutive day. It is a condensed week with Washington playing on Thursday Night Football at Chicago. And so instead of hearing from him post-game on Sunday and then again on Monday, day after, had a chance to digest the film and kind of decompress a bit and now come back level-headed and speak. And then hear again from him on Wednesday when the work week really gets underway for your next opponent. We've heard from him now 3 days in a row. And he was a little ornery after the game. And obviously, he had every reason to be. After losing a gut-wrenching game like that against the Titans, he came back, and I thought he made things worse. Instead of, coming back level-headed, chance to digest the film, probably still frustrated because you realize you let a golden opportunity slip through your fingers to win a football game, snap a losing streak, and get closer to 500 on the season. But he dug himself an even deeper hole yesterday. Really made one comment in particular that took off on a life of its own, created a media firestorm. And that's one thing you never want to do, is create a distraction, especially on a short week like Washington is facing this week. You don't want to create a distraction at all. I mean, that's what you tell your players in the locker room. Hey, don't be the guy that creates a distraction that other players have to then answer to. And as a coach, you tell your players that. But you never want to be the guy that does it yourself as a coach, because then it's hard to tell the players not to do the same thing. And so Ron, with the quarterback's comment yesterday, which I thought in nature was ambiguous, which is what caused the problem in the first place. First of all, I thought he was wrong. Okay. I don't believe that the quarterbacks in the division are the reason why those teams are 4-1. I never looked at it as a shot at Carson Wentz in terms of he made the wrong decision. He would never admit that publicly. Even if he's thinking that right now, he would never admit that publicly. So I never took from his statement, oh, I effed up. I went out and traded for Carson Wentz and he's not the guy. He sucks and that's why we're 1-4. I never took that from the statement. And I think guys like Alex Smith, who took it as such and ran with it and created this narrative, I think that's false. But again, he left, and this was the problem with the statement Ron made yesterday, is he left it up to the interpretation of the listener. Whomever heard the statement, they could draw their own inferences. It's almost as if he left it blank. He made that comment, he left it blank, and you could fill in that blank with whatever you wanted to fill it in with in terms of how you interpreted what he had said. And so I took it as he wasn't taking the necessary accountability that I felt like should have been taken by him, and not only him, the rest of the coaching staff, specifically Scott Turner. You want to talk about why we're 1-4? We got to look in the mirror. That's what I wanted to hear him say, was we need to take a look in the mirror. But enough of that. Ronald came back today, and he issued an apology to the players. And he said that he had a team meeting, and the first thing that he wanted to do was he wanted to apologize to the players for what he had caused, for what he had said. And he wanted to clarify his statements because he felt like they were misconstrued. And again, that's on you. And he admitted that's on me. I put an incomplete statement out there. And so what happened to it was because of what I said. I said something and I know better and I got to do better because I know better. I've been at this too long to put something out there like that, to put myself, and not only myself, but the team in a predicament like I did yesterday. So he apologized for that. Look, me as an individual, okay, I can't speak for anybody else out there. Me, Louie T, I am huge on accountability. I tell my kids that. I tell anybody that's, coming up in the game. I talk about that with the youth of America. I'm big on accountability. Own your shit is what I tell the youth of America. That's what I tell my kids. Own your shit. Now, they've got to get to a certain age. I'm not going to be telling my 6-year-old to own her shit or his shit, right? But once you get to a certain age and we can take the kid gloves off, own your shit, okay? You're going to make mistakes in life. Everyone does. We're human, okay? No one's perfect. Learn from your mistakes, grow from your mistakes, but admit that you made a mistake. That's how you grow. And that was my biggest gripe with Robert Griffin III, was there was never any accountability, okay? He never was willing to say, hey, that was on me. I got to be better. I told the guys in the locker room, that's on me. I didn't give them a chance today. I got to play better. He was always looking to point the finger somewhere else. And I couldn't deal with that. I do not have tolerance nor patience for someone who isn't willing to point the thumb, but is always quick to point the finger. Okay? I can't deal with that. That to me is something that just goes against every grain of my fiber and being. So when Ron didn't want to cop to some of the things that he did wrong, including challenging a play that they knew they weren't going to win, which cost us a timeout that ultimately hurt us down the stretch. Yeah, I got a problem with him not owning up to that. I got a problem with him not saying, hey, we got to get in from the 2-yard line. He doesn't have to throw Scott Turner under the bus. We can draw our own inferences, just like we drew our own inference with the statement on quarterbacks in the division as to why Dallas is 4-1, Philadelphia is 5-0, and the Giants are 4-1. We can draw our own inferences. If you say, we got to get in from the 2-yard line. No excuses. We had 3 shots from the 2. We got to get in. We are allowed to then go and say he's talking about Scott Turner. He doesn't have to say his name. He doesn't have to criticize Scott Turner publicly, but he can say, I don't care how it happens. We got to find a way to get in from the 2-yard line. We have to execute better. We got to call better plays. We got to get in from the 2-yard line. That's what I was looking to hear. I can't waste a timeout on a challenge that is unsuccessful in that particular moment. We had enough angles. We had enough time to look at it. And that's my fault. That's on me. That's what I was looking for. I didn't get that. I didn't even get a mention of the blunder that was that. That's a big effing decision that he made that cost us, and the media didn't even bring it up. That's a big deal that he challenged a play that ultimately cost us a timeout in a 4-point ball game with less than 5 minutes to go in the game. That's a big deal. And for no one to bring it up, for him to not cop to that, that's a problem for me. But in any event, Ronald apologized today. And I like that. He manned up. He said, that's on me. I got to be better. I know better. And when you know better, you do better. And so I can appreciate that. I can appreciate that. He still hasn't fessed up to the things that I want to hear him fess up to, but at least that's a step in the right direction. That he realized he made a mistake, because he made an ass out of himself yesterday. I was furious yesterday. Like, dude, you're already on the shit list and you're making it even worse by talking out of the side of your neck. I told you, and you know what he said? He said, shit, I had a bad day yesterday. That's what I want to hear. Look, we're human, dude. We all have bad days. It's not going to be great every single day. We all have bad days. It happens. Life happens. Shit happens. We just want you to acknowledge that. And so I can get with that. We're still not best friends. Ron's still not my guy right now. That, again, subject to change. Everything's fluid, but he's still Ronald right now. So I was glad to hear him say what he said today. It's a step in the right direction. He said the players responded well. And now he said we can get on to what's really important, and that's football. He's right about that. Let's see what they do with the opportunity that's going to be presented in front of them on Thursday night against the Chicago Bears as we transition to in other news. And so Ron, again, spoke today, talked about, some of the things that he said yesterday, talked about the upcoming matchup versus the Bears very briefly. Most of what was said today was pertaining to the Titans game, Scott Turner being back up in the booth, some injury stuff that he had to clean up. But all in all, today was a practice day. Some questions were asked about the personal foul penalties on roughing the passer and what because Ron is a part of the competition committee. So he's on that board that's going to decide, and they're going to have to do something. That this cannot continue. Like that sack last night, that was a forced fumble. You can't take that away from the Chiefs. That could have cost them. If the Chiefs ultimately lose that game 31-30, if the Raiders convert that 2-point conversion and the Chiefs don't get in the field goal range and they don't win that game, that's a play you come back to and you say, that cost them the football game. Well, are you kidding me? That's a big momentum swing. The Raiders ended up getting a field goal off of that. So, yeah, they can't do that. The Grady Jarrett, sack on Tom Brady. Are you kidding me? And Brady called it a long hug. Like, are you serious? That's personal foul. You got to be kidding me. So they got to figure that out. It's an overreaction. It's an overcorrection. And Ron said, there's got to be a happy medium, which is what I said last night. But again, all of that stuff is cool and it's great, but we don't care about that. Our team is 1-4. We can give a shit about the competition committee and what's happening with sacks, unless it affects us, right? Then we have a problem with it. But until then, none of us really care about that. I'm a football guy, so obviously I care, but most of you are just Washington fans. You give two shits about what the competition committee is going to do 5-6 months from now. We want to know, how are we going to beat the Chicago Bears, snap this 4-game skid, and get back on the right track. And this is going to be a great opportunity to do that, against Chicago. Let's get to the injury report before we get to anything else. Carson Wentz spoke to the media as well today, and I'll give you a little bit of what he had to say. But let's first take a look at the injury report for week number 6 on Thursday Night Football. Remember, today was a walkthrough. Ron made it a point of emphasis to stress that there were no helmets on. And so all of these injuries that you see were projections to, if they would have practiced today, this is what the report would have looked like. Again, everyone was present. It's a walkthrough, so you don't actually have to be healthy to perform in a walkthrough. But this is what it would have looked like had they had on pads and a helmet today. So Percy Butler, quad. Remember, he missed the game last week. I don't think he's going to. Again, anybody that didn't play last week, more likely than not, aside from Logan Thomas, he's the only one that has a shot to play on Thursday night that didn't play last week. Everybody else that didn't play last week, for the most part, I think is going to be out because it's such a quick turnaround. And it doesn't make any sense to rush a guy back, 4 days after they weren't able to play on Sunday. Logan Thomas literally was a game time decision with his calf injury. So if you go and you test it out on game day and then you realize I can't go, there's a good chance that you'll be able to go 4 days later. So a guy like Logan Thomas, I think, will be able to perform in this game. But somebody like Percy Butler or Sam Cosmi or Jahan Dotson, who missed the game and weren't even close, didn't even practice last week for the most part, don't look for those guys this week. So I'm going to just tell you right now, Percy Butler, Sam Cosmi, Jahan Dotson, and Jonathan Williams probably aren't playing this week. I won't even put probably. They're not playing this week. We know Sam Cosmi isn't playing with the thumb that he just had surgically repaired. We know that Jahan Dotson isn't going to play, had a hamstring, didn't practice last week, isn't going to practice this week. And I've already said it doesn't make any sense to try to rush him back. And so I don't expect to even have him be in the conversation until the Green Bay game in week number 7. So Jahan is going to be out. Percy Butler, we'll see with the quad. My guess is he'll be out as well. Jonathan Williams injured his knee against Tennessee on Sunday. He's probably going to be, he's going to be out of this ball game. And then you get to the guys that were limited today. De'Ami Brown with the groin. I don't want to hear that from him because this guy just had a breakout game. I hope it's just something minor where it was a little sore, nothing major, but because it was sore, like Carson Wentz said it perfectly, and we'll talk about what he said, and I hope this applies to guys like De'Ami Brown in particular. But he's got a groin. He was limited today. Christian Holmes, hamstring limited. David Mayo, hamstring limited. These are all guys that were on the injury report last week. I don't know about Christian Holmes being on the injury report last week or not. Logan Thomas, calf limited. Remember, he went up until game time, tested it out, decided he couldn't go, did not play last week. Carson Wentz, right shoulder limited, and William Jackson III, back, full participant. He got benched. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. William Jackson III tried to make it seem as if he asked to be pulled out of the game because of his back flaring up. If the back was truly an issue, he wouldn't be a full participant. He got benched. He didn't want to admit it to the media. He got benched. He probably, his pride and his ego got in the way when he was asked about it after the game on Sunday, because Ron could have easily diffused any narrative about him being benched by saying, oh, no. His back flared up on him, and we just thought it was better to get him out, be safe than sorry, and get a guy in there that was healthy, that could run around. That's not what Ron said. Ron said, we pulled him, and that's it. You can interpret it whatever way you want. They benched him. That's what Ron said, essentially. But back to Carson Wentz and his right shoulder. He said, look, it's Monday. I came in, I was sore. It's Monday, the day after a game. For anyone that's ever played football before, or any sport for that matter, even basketball, but specifically football because it's such a contact sport, you know how it is the next day, man. If you're really out there playing snaps, all right, you know what it's like that next day. It feels like you've been in a car wreck. So he said, I woke up, it was Monday. My shoulder was sore. It's Monday. Normally we don't have to report injuries on a Monday after the game. So I'm usually sore every Monday, but because this is the week of a Thursday game and I came in and I had to report how I felt, I was sore. My shoulder was sore. So he's like, I feel fine today. And so Tuesday, he says, my recovery process is the same every week, Monday, Tuesday. He says, I feel fine. I got nothing going on. But, that's the nature of a Thursday game is that, Monday you feel sore. So I'm hoping De'Ami Brown woke up growing a little sore on Monday. Tuesday is feeling better. Wednesday, it's not an issue. Thursday, he's ready to go. That's what I'm hoping. But, you never know. We will see. I feel really confident about everyone that was limited today being able to go on Thursday. But again, tomorrow will be the real test. Tomorrow will be the real test for a lot of these guys. Let's transition to the Bears injury report. And as you can see, like it always is, our opponent's injury report is way less than ours. 3 guys on the list right now for the Bears: Matt Adams, calf; Dane Cruikshank, full with a hamstring; Jalen Johnson, quad, full. And so even the guys that are on the list were full participants today. I mean, again, they did the same thing we did, pretty much walk through on a Monday, the day after a game. And so this is a projection of what would have happened had it been a full practice. They don't, what that says is they don't have a lot of guys banged up. That's essentially what that says. So as we go back to in other news, Carson Wentz stepped to the podium today, spoke about the comments that Ron made. This is what happens. This is what a distraction is. It means other guys that have nothing to do, they're going to catch strays like Carson did yesterday. And now they've got to answer questions about something that they didn't say. That's what that's the true definition of distraction in sports, is when one guy says something or does something, and now guys that didn't participate in whatever happened to cause the distraction has to now answer questions about the thing that was said or done. And so you indirectly are affected because now you've got to answer questions about something that you had nothing to do with. And so of course, he had to answer the questions about Ron's comment yesterday, and so he did that. And in typical Carson Wentz fashion, he dismissed it. Was like, hey, I didn't even know anything about it. I was just told about it. Like, it was not a big deal. He talked to us as a team, and addressed us, and we appreciated that. And now we move on. We play football. Ron came to me, talked to me, and he told me what was said and how he meant it. And look, it's water under the bridge. Let's move on. So again, Carson has always taken the high road since he's gotten here. I can't speak to the Carson in Philadelphia or in Indianapolis. I can only speak to the Carson Wentz that has shown up here and been present. This guy's taken the high road every single time. I mean, he's been shitted on so many times this season, I can't even keep count. And he always takes the high road. And so I wouldn't expect anything less of Carson. So, also, he talked about the ability to audible, and he said, as the season progresses, and I've already stated this, he feels like he'll have more and more autonomy to do that. He did that. Ron made it a point of emphasis, and I think it was in response to what was said last week about Carson not being able to audible. So Ron went out of his way to talk about the touchdown to De'Ami. The second one was a check with me at the line of scrimmage that Carson got them into that play and made the throw, and De'Ami made the catch and scored the touchdown. And so Ron went out of his way to say that, to say, hey, he is capable of making these checks at the line of scrimmage, and he did it, and it really benefited us. So Carson's like, look, I trust Scott. I trust the play call. They asked him about Scott being in the booth versus being on the field. He's like, the communication was fine. I got no problems with it, because everybody tried to make it a big issue, like he's only on the sideline because of Carson, which that may have been the case. Maybe Carson is better communicating with guys on the sidelines, but Scott's more comfortable making play calls from the booth than he needs to be up in the booth. That's what it all, to me, amounts to, is wherever the play caller is more comfortable calling the game from, that's where he should be. And so, Carson talked about, wanting to turn the season around. Here's the thing. He didn't mention this, but I thought about this as I was thinking about this. I always try to put a positive spin on things. This is why I'm insane. All right. This is why I tell you guys, don't be like me, be better than me. Okay. because I'm insane. I'm a glutton for punishment. I come back for more and more every single week. I try to convince myself this is the week that it's going to turn around. I don't know if I'm doing that necessarily this week or not, but I am. I do this from time to time. I find little tidbits and little nuggets that I can hang on to and say, hey, this is why it's not over yet. Last week, we were 1-3. Titans were there looking like food. We had an opportunity, and my mindset was, you beat the Titans, you get to 2-3. You beat the Bears, you get to 3-3. You hit the reset button with the pseudo bye, and all of a sudden, here we go. We got a chance, right? Well, that's out the window now. You're 1-4, and so all I can say is Carson Wentz was in the exact same spot last year. Exact same spot last year. Colts got off to a horrid start. Then they got hot. They won like 5 or 6 in a row. Nobody wanted to play them. I remember so vividly talking about the ability to run the football, the defense that they were playing, and how Carson Wentz was making all of the plays necessary when it mattered most, and how this team was winning ball games and nobody wanted any piece of them. We all remember the Thursday night game where they beat the New England Patriots. The Patriots were red hot, and the Patriots came to Indy. Indy took care of them, not without a little strife in that game. It got tight late, but they won that football game. And at that point of the season, I want to say that might have been like week 12 or 13. The assumption was not only are the Colts going to make the playoffs, no one's going to want to play them because of their physical nature, the defense that they were playing, the run game. And if Wentz could just continue to do the things that he had been doing, this is going to be a scary team. And they had the Bucs on the ropes. If Wentz doesn't fumble and he got hit and it wasn't on Wentz, his left tackle, Eric Fisher at the time, got beat like he stole something. Wentz never had a chance. Ball comes out. Bucs recover. They were up like 21-7 and going for more points. If they score a touchdown there, go up 28-7, they're going to beat Tampa Bay in that game. And it kind of felt like that changed their season a little bit. But I said all of that to say this. He was here before. All right. He was 1-4 last year with the Colts, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe even 1-5. I think they were 1-4. Maybe maybe they were 1-3. But again, he was in this same predicament last season. And again, we're not the Colts, and we don't have their run game, and we don't have Jonathan Taylor at running back. And so, other things are going to have to occur for this season to turn around. But I'm just saying, Carson's been here before. So if anybody can figure out a way to dig themselves out of a hole like this, it's Carson Wentz. So we'll see what happens. He also talked about the block that he threw. I thought this was kind of funny, although it wasn't funny. It was funny. He was like, I got the guy, pretty good, but, he got the last laugh because, he got me back at the end of the game because he picked me off. So, that kind of sucks. So, that's how the cookie crumbles. Carson got him, but the guy ended up getting David Long, the linebacker, ended up getting him later in the game when it mattered most. So anyway, I digress. Let's turn our attention to the Bears. I told you this is a quick week. We're going to be moving at a very rapid pace. So let's take our first look at the Chicago Bears. The Bears. They're 2-3, coming off of a heartbreaking loss in which they scratched, clawed, and battled their way back against the Minnesota Vikings. It was a fun game. The Bears were down in that game like 21 to, I want to say it was like 21 to 7, 21 to 3 or something like that. They were getting smoked in that game, and they scratched, they clawed, and finally, their way back and finally took the lead 22-21 in that ball game. It was an improbable comeback. Justin Fields is coming off of his best game as a professional against the Vikings, so that doesn't bode well for us. He's playing with a little bit of confidence. I only had 4 incompletions in that game. I think he was 17 of 21 for just a shade over 200 yards passing. Again, these are abnormal numbers for him because, one, he doesn't throw it a ton. He's had 3 games this season, and there have only been 5 to this point. He's had 3 games this season where he hasn't even attempted 20 passes. One of those games, he only attempted 11. The 2 other ones were 17. So he's not throwing the football a ton. The most pass attempts he's had in any game is 22, and that was against the Giants 2 weeks ago. So he doesn't throw it a ton, all right? And so he was very efficient. got the ball out of his hands to the running backs out of the backfield, checked it down. Look, they don't have a lot of talent, but they do have Darnell Mooney. And man, is he a beast. He made an outstanding catch. It'll be in the category for catch of the year. We've already seen 2 or 3 catches that are in that category. Obviously, the Thursday night catch by Pickens, but George Pickens for the Steelers. But this is right up there with it, if not better, the catch he made against the Vikings. And he's a problem. We're going to have to deal with Darnell Mooney. And if we don't, he's going to scorch us in this game. And that's the only guy that they have. And I said the same thing about Derrick Henry last week, and he still got off on us. So I expect Darnell Mooney at some point to get off on us in the football game. But Fields is coming off of his best performance. That defense in Chicago isn't a finished product by any stretch of the imagination, but they're not a bad group. They're well coached by Matt Eberflus, their new head coach. Came from Indianapolis, so he's bringing that same defensive scheme. Their goal is to keep everything in front of them, not give up big plays, keep that too high shell over the top, and keep everything in front of them. Get after the quarterback. They blitz here and there, but they really just want to get pressure with 4, play coverage. So we're going to have to be patient. We're going to have to take what they give us. Carson can't, be pressing and trying to get it down the field. There'll be some opportunities, maybe down the middle of the field. We're not a down the middle of the football team. If you're throwing the football, if you've noticed, how many times do we hit seam balls up the middle of the football field? How many times do we attack the middle of the football field? A lot of what we do is out on the perimeter, whether it's a quick screen or something quick outside, or it's an out-breaking route, or it's a deep route that comes across the field but ends up going towards the sidelines. A lot of what we do are outside the numbers. We don't really work inside the middle of the football field. So a team like Chicago is going to love playing against us because they play a lot of cover 2, a lot of that Tampa 2, and if you're going to do that, the middle of the field is usually your best friend as an offense, but we don't utilize the middle of the field. So it's another one of the things that just frustrates me to no end as a fan watching this offense, because we don't utilize the middle of the football field very well at all. But this is a Bears team that can get after the quarterback, unlike Tennessee last week, who I felt like we were going to be able to protect against, and we did. This Bears front can get after you, and I'm nervous about it. I'm just going to be honest with you. So there are a lot of things that could go well, but could also go terribly wrong for Washington on Thursday. It's one of those games where I really don't know what's going to happen, but I look forward to seeing what ultimately does on Thursday night. That's your first look. We'll have Behind Enemy Lines tomorrow, where we'll really get in depth with the Chicago Bears, kind of figure out what it is that we need to do to try to get a win and snap this ugly 4-game skid that we are on. And so with that, I'm going to glide to the side and allow you to enjoy the rest of your afternoon. I really, truly do appreciate each and every single one of you for joining me here on Commanders Nightly News. I look forward to chopping it up with you live tomorrow night for Commanders Nightly News live. Until then, you guys, take care and have a good one.
Here comes the diesel. Here comes the diesel. There's the snap, hand to Riggins. Good hold. He's got the first down to the 40. He's got